This episode of Inspire AI podcast is sponsored by Exponent 21. I keep hearing the same thing from business leaders lately. We're doing the work, but leads are harder to explain. Traffic is down, attribution feels fuzzy, and the old answers don't really fit anymore. What's changed is how people search. Instead of clicking links, people are asking questions, and AI is answering them. Tools like ChatGPT, Google's AI-powered results, and Perplexity are shaping which brands get mentioned, referenced, and remembered. Exponent 21 specializes in AI SEO. They help businesses understand how to show up consistently inside those AI-generated answers across questions about their industry, their services, and their brand. What stands out to me is that when people ask AI tools, who's leading in this space? Exponent 21 and its leaders are often referenced near the top. That comes from doing the work and shaping how this new search environment actually functions. To understand what this shift means for your business, visit exponent21.com. Welcome back to Inspire AI, the podcast where we explore how leaders, builders, and communities can stay thoughtful, adaptive, and prepared in an AI-accelerated world. For decades, leadership inside technology organizations was relatively straightforward. They managed teams, they allocated resources, they tracked delivery, they coordinated projects, and, they improved execution. While leadership was never easy, the operating model itself was fairly stable. Humans created the work, software supported the work, and managers coordinated the work. But AI changes something fundamental. But we're seeing a shift where organizations no longer consist only of people and software tools, increasingly consist of humans, AI systems, autonomous agents, evaluation pipelines, orchestration layers, and continuous automation workflows. So as that's evolving, so is leadership itself. The future leader is not simply managing people or processes or technologies necessarily. They are managing systems of intelligence. And that is what we're exploring today. Leadership has always followed technology. One of the most important patterns in history is that every major technological shift changes organizational structure, from the industrialization changing factories, the internet changing communication, cloud computing changing infrastructure, and remote work, changing coordination, reshaping organizations more deeply than any of those previous transitions. Because unlike previous software waves, AI doesn't just automate tasks. It participates in cognition, the mental action of process of acquiring knowledge and understanding through the thought, experience, and senses. While it's contributing to writing, coding, analysis, planning, summarization, forecasting, decision support, and workflow execution. And when intelligence becomes embedded into workflows, leadership becomes less about supervising activity and more about orchestrating intelligence effectively. We are shifting from team management to system orchestration, where traditionally supervisors, managers, leaders coordinated human labor. Tasks were assigned, projects were tracked, expertise was distributed across teams. But AI is changing the economics of execution, where a single person can soon operate with coding agents, automated testing systems, AI research assistants, synthetic data generators, workflow automation pipelines, and evaluation systems, which dramatically increases their leverage. But it also dramatically increases complexity, because now people must coordinate the judgment, the machine-generated outputs, the verification systems, the organizational constraints, the governance requirements, and the operational trust. And this is leading to a new challenge. How do we coordinate intelligence systems responsibly? If we think about that, it's less tactical and more strategic. One of the clear signals of where this is heading is that the future engineering leader may coordinate 10 engineers, but 50 AI agents. And while that sounds futuristic, yes, pieces of it are already emerging. These AI systems are generating documentation, monitoring infrastructure, proposing fixes, summarizing incidents, drafting architectural options. The list goes on and on. As these systems improve, organizations won't simply become faster. They'll become more structurally different. That's where the role of leadership is shifting upward. Leaders are spending less time in the details and more time in aligning systems and defining constraints because they're learning how to orchestrate complex workflows, setting governance, and designing feedback loops. As I said before, it's a system of judgment and trust. And this is a story about the evolution from a manager to a systems leader. So why is orchestration becoming the core skill? Well, as AI systems proliferate, orchestration is becoming the most valuable capability inside organizations, with the biggest challenge being coordination. We're asking ourselves, how do multiple systems interact? What decisions remain human-owned? What processes become autonomous? Where should oversight exist? How do you prevent cascading errors? And how do you maintain accountability? These are orchestration problems. But again, they're problems that are proliferating inside organizations right now. As orchestration, is fundamentally a leadership function. This is why I believe many organizations are underestimating the real impact here. You see, they think the transformation is about productivity, but as I said before, productivity is only the surface level effect. The deeper transformation is organizational, because these systems are changing communication patterns, operational structures, decision velocity, the management layers themselves, the team composition, and the architecture of it all, down to every workflow. These companies are critically thinking about how they can become AI native operating systems, which requires an entirely different style of leadership, which emerges a new leadership tension, one in which the challenge in this era will be balancing between two competing forces, velocity and coherence. For organizations, workflows with humans and processes and technology, deterministic ones at that, most importantly are logical and consistent. But as AI is increasing the velocity, where there's more experimentation, more ideas, more automation, more output and iteration, the strongest leadership is bridging that coherence. And without that, the acceleration alone is going to fragment organizations. When you have teams moving in different directions or systems losing consistency, the governance weakens and the trust erodes. And as the complexity compounds, the leadership becomes essential. Seeing how the goal is no longer maximizing output, it's now aligning intelligence systems so that they remain trustworthy, resilient, adaptive, and accountable, which requires leaders to think systematically, not tactically. In an environment with this much power, this much intelligence, the shift we're making now is that historically expertise meant having the answers, having a deep, deep understanding of what the context is and how to impact it with the right initiative behind it. But in these AI native environments where information is everywhere, answers are everywhere, and suggestions are everywhere, and of course your analysis is, everywhere. Leadership becomes less about possessing information and more about filtering the signal from the noise and creating clarity and defining priorities, thinking about the principles that you must establish and making the decisions under uncertainty. This is changing leadership's identity at the core. And I think that many current leadership models are still optimized for the earlier eras of scarcity. Think back about my interview with Dr. John Dentico, talking about the leadership models of the old are dying, where scarcity of information and computation and expertise is putting organizations at risk. AI is definitely changing those assumptions. You have to start questioning when judgment will actually become more valuable than raw knowledge alone. So as I've alluded to before, the organizational design is going to change. Think about it. We're approaching a period where organizational charts themselves will evolve when AI systems dramatically increase individual leverage. Companies are going to operate with smaller teams, move faster, find ways to reduce coordination overhead, and streamline their efficiency through automating operational layers and restructuring decision-making systems. It doesn't necessarily mean fewer humans matter. It just means they'll be doing different work. They're going to evolve upward, like I said before. Organizations will likely become flatter, more adaptive, more experimental, while the humans understand how to combine the people in the systems, the governance, the workflows, and the evaluation. And those organizations who can execute properly will have enormous strategic advantage. The new strategic advantage will be coordination quality. And at a deeper level, what this episode is really all about is that when leverage evolves, leadership evolves. I say that again. Whenever leverage evolves, leadership must evolve. This is one of the largest leverage expansions modern organizations have ever experienced. But pay attention closely, because leverage without alignment will create instability. And that's why systems leadership is mattering more than ever. Because the future belongs not simply to the organizations with the most intelligence, but the organizations with the clearest coordination, the strongest trust systems, the best evaluation structures, then the healthiest human-AI relationships, and finally the most resilient operational models. And those outcomes will not emerge automatically. They will require thoughtful leadership. So I think one of the biggest mistakes leaders could possibly make right now is assuming that the AI is simply another software tool. It's much bigger than that, because the AI is changing the organizations in how they think, how they decide, how they coordinate, and how they evolve. And as the intelligence is becoming embedded throughout the workflows, leadership itself is becoming a systems design challenge. And those who thrive won't be the ones that move the fastest. They'll be the ones who can align complexity, maintain the trust, orchestrate the intelligence, and guide their organizations through periods of accelerating change without losing the consistency. And that requires an entirely new leadership mindset. And with that, I'll say, until next time, stay curious, keep innovating, and keep building organizations that scale intelligence without losing wisdom.